Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Justine from Aimhigher London, and I'm here with my colleague Esther. Esther's going to be keeping an eye on the chat all the way through. There might be some that she'll choose to answer, but we've probably saved your questions for the panel at the end. We've got a fantastic panel here to talk to you. How it's going to work is we're going to hear from our academics first, just so you can get a little perspective there. Then we'll talk to our student ambassadors and get their perspective. And then we're going to get top tips from our academics about what makes a good application, what they look out for. And then a Q&A at the end with the whole panel. So please keep your questions coming throughout. Esther will have our eyes on that. Let's press on. We're going to hear first and foremost from Dr. Kane from Roehampton University.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Are you able to see my screen at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah, are you able to see the presentation?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Is it working now? No. I think I might need to leave the session and rejoin. It's just my settings. If that's okay, I'll join you very shortly. Apologies.
In that case, should we start with Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, of course. I'm more than happy to go first. And just for absolute clarity, for those of you that have not met me, I'm not quite yet a doctor. I'm doing my PhD in prisons, and I'm not yet submitted because I'm a perfectionist and take too long. What I'm going to do over the next 8 minutes is I will talk to you about my journey into law, my background. Hopefully, HEPS will back me when we talk about how great St Mary's is as a university, as one of our lovely students. And then before I hand you back to Dr. Kane, who will then give you his presentation. Okay, so my route to law and my route to where I am today is probably very different from a lot of academics that you will come across. I was born into a single parent family, and no one in my family had gone to university at the time that I decided to go to university. I grew up in a low income area, and you either went to prison or became the law. So I decided that I was going to become a police officer and try and fix all the problems on my estate and fix everything for my friends and try and help people along the way. So for 10 years, I was working as a police officer in Hampshire. I worked across a number of different areas in policing. So I did the really good policing that you see on TV, where you run around with blue lights on and you push the doors in and do warrants and so on. But I also did some really great investigation work as well. And so I worked in a plainclothes unit for a long portion of my time in the police, where we investigated what is known as, priority crime, which is burglaries and drugs and things like that. So during my time working on that unit, I spent a lot of time in and out of court. So you'd be given the role as officer in case. So you'd be the one that would prepare the files, you'd be the one that would get all the evidence together, and you'd be the one running around in court for the barristers and the solicitors, trying to make sure they had all the information, all the evidence, and could put the case towards the judge and the jury. I thought, full of self-confidence halfway through my role, that I could probably do that and I could probably do it better. So with all the self-confidence that I had, I decided to retrain. So I went back to university in my 30s as a single parent myself with a son in junior school. And I decided to do my LLB. I did that over at Winchester, and I chose Winchester because they were very, very good at encouraging mature students to go back to study, or people from a non-traditional background. So I went there for 3 years, and really enjoyed studying again and really enjoyed my law degree. I thought it was definitely much harder work than people make out. And I constantly fight for students to say that actually getting a law degree is really, really hard. You put a lot of time and effort into it. And students don't deserve to be having the tagline of a lazy student, because you're absolutely not. You really deserve your qualification for all the effort and time you put in. After I completed my undergraduate degree, I decided that actually I really, really liked studying. And before I went to sit the bar, I would go and do a little master's, like you do. And I did a master's in international law at the University of Reading. Halfway through my master's, the pandemic hit. So I was homeschooling my child, who was then year 5 and year 6, and doing a master's thesis in the middle of lockdown, at the point where you still weren't allowed to socialize with anyone, stuck in my house. And I am semi-grateful for lockdown for helping me complete my master's thesis when we weren't allowed out and there were no distractions. But it was a really challenging time and quite the experience. Following on from that, I then decided that, I was still going to change the world with my policing rose-coloured glasses on, and was invited to submit a proposal for a scholarship to do a PhD. My PhD was how working class individuals are more likely to go to prison than people from any other social background. We were looking at people that had gone to prison for non-violent crimes. So thinking about the low-income single mother who has repeatedly shoplifted and has been given a prison sentence, but the only reason that she was shoplifting would be to feed her children or to pay the electric meter or so on. So my PhD, I can talk to you for ages about social class, prison system, and why short-term prison sentences are really not a thing. But the government are definitely listening, and you can see in the news at the moment that we're hopefully really moving away from short-term prison sentences, which is great news. So during my journey of studying, I realised that you could get a job where you were paid to talk. If someone had told me that I could have a job where you're paid to talk at 18, I probably definitely would have looked into it sooner. I started lecturing in law to support my postgraduate studies, and I absolutely love it. And I'm sure Heps will also tell you that I do talk a lot, and it's a wonderful job for me. But what I like the most about where I work right now at St Mary's is that we're a university that really supports you no matter where you come from. A lot of times when you look at universities, especially if you're from a non-traditional background, it can become quite overwhelming. It can be an environment where you don't always see people like you. At St Mary's, it's completely not like that. And we've got a really, really caring and unique environment where we definitely live the value generosity of spirit. I would say, and as of September, we're redesigning the course over at St Mary's, so it'll be a much more practical based law course. So we're giving people the opportunity to have real world experience from day one, with opportunities that I hope Heps will talk about when it's her turn, about working with organisations such as Support Through Court at the Royal Courts of Justice and the Central Family Court. And some other great experiences like Amicus, who's a death penalty charity where you can have hands-on experience there as well. I'm very, very conscious that I've hit 8 minutes past 5, Justine, and that I might have hit my time limit, my very strict time limit, and I'm happy to take questions later once everyone else has spoken.
Thank you so much, Charlie. What a fascinating journey.
Very hard to condense that into 8 minutes, Justine.
Absolutely. And also very, very interested in your thesis. I cannot believe people are going to prison for non-payment of the television license fee in this day and age. It makes me ill.
Indeed, I can talk about that for ages as well, but I'll let you.
Well, hopefully you'll have lots of questions later and we'll hear from you again. Thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating. Now, Dr. Kane, let's hope that your presentation is going to work this time around. Can we hear from you, please? Oh, that seems like it's going to work.
Yes, hopefully it will work. Sorry for the start. I'm just sharing my screen right now. Are you able to see the presentation?
Oh, yes.
Lovely. So my name is Kane. I've had a very unexpected journey into law in reality, because I was not expecting to do anything related to law before I went to university. I think I always had a keen interest in the scientific topics, although surprisingly, I wasn't very good at it. And it was my headmaster who grabbed me one day and said, listen, I think we need to have a conversation. You're okay in the scientific topics, but you're far better in the literary topics, particularly in English literature, in writing, drafting, and constructing arguments. And I listened to reason, and I listened to the advice that he gave me, and I fell into law. My mother was a lawyer, but before I became a lawyer myself, I just thought it was just a lot of blah blah blah, just lawyers chatting, lying all the time to protect clients. And I discovered that it's not that at all. It is a very enjoyable career, and so I completed an LLB. I went on to do 2 masters and a PhD, which discussed the role of consent in contracts, because I'm obsessed about contract law ever since I studied it in second year. And what I discovered is very much how to think coherently, how to build an argument, and most importantly, what it means to be a lawyer. That is to be the voice of those who have none, or those who are not necessarily heard in society, and really fight for their interests to be heard, which also convinced me to take the bar and also qualify. What I wanted to talk to you about particularly today is about careers in law. I think when people are thinking about, oh, what will I do with a law degree? I must absolutely be a barrister or a solicitor. The reality is that your degree does not confine you to those specific roles. Obviously, the traditional roles are becoming a solicitor or a barrister, and some people might think that barristers are smarter or clever. That's not true. It's the same training to start with, the same academic training that solicitors undergo. Both professions are exciting. They are very different. If you want to be a solicitor, you will work perhaps more closely with clients than you would as a barrister. But the difference between the 2 professions is becoming more and more thin over time. And law offers you a host of careers where you might apply or advise on the law, be it even working in-house, for example, working in government legal services, for the CPS, also, or for legal aid agencies or community law agencies such as citizen advice, for example. There are also a lot of alternative careers which are very often forgotten, such as mediation. So if you love to talk to people, if you love to solve issues and bring people together, mediation might be an option for you. Arbitration is slightly different, but it's a different way to settle a dispute out of court as well. Compliance rules are also careers that would be available to you. But there are also lots of different careers outside of law, and your degree very much equips you with an ability to think, an ability to reflect, an ability to also open your mind and broaden your horizons. So you're not confined to strictly law-related roles, but you can also go on to work in policy. I myself worked in policy before becoming a full-time academic. And when I look at what my classmates did at university, a lot of them didn't qualify as lawyers. They qualified in policy roles. Some are working in business admin or in HR. So the world is very much open to you, which is one of the biggest benefits of a career in law. And knowing the law, being able to apply the law, even if you don't do it on a systematic basis, on a daily basis, you still acquire some vital skills, I would say, that will enable you to understand the world in which you live, and also to make an impact, and also have an impact on other people. So, don't be like me, like I was before I started my law degree, thinking, I could, it's very parochial, I can only do certain things. In reality, it opens the door to many different opportunities if you know how to seize them. And what's I particularly like about Roehampton University is that we build employability within our curriculum. So from first year, you will always have an employability week, for example, where we try to give you opportunities to develop your skills. We understand that a lot of our students, don't have those opportunities because of the background. So we offer opportunities for internships as well to help them build their CV and become more employable. You also have the opportunity to take a gap year in third year, for example, to go and work either in a law firm, in an NGO, for example, or in business administration, to build and enhance your skills and your CV, and come back in fourth year to finish your LLB before graduating from the university and deciding whether you want to stay within within law and work in law or work outside of law. So that I would, I'm very proud of the way in which we've built our curriculum. Also, obtaining accreditations from external bodies, one of them being the CARB, for those who might be having interest in arbitration. That's the Chartered Institutes of Arbitrators. But we also have obtained accreditation from ACA, which is a body which accreditates business courses, which also enables you to to market yourself more and enhance your CV further. I think I might have reached my time. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm very keen to exchange with you later tonight and answer any questions that you may have about careers in law.
You actually have 1 more minute if you want it.
No, I think I've covered most things. Oh, I forgot one thing. One career which might be forgotten is obviously academia, which is a very rewarding career if you love to do research and also contribute to knowledge exchange and solve problems.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Kane. That's brilliant. And we'll come back to you at the end, especially to hear about what you look for in an application. That's going to be really interesting for our attendees. Let's hear now from our students and get the student perspective. If we can start by having you introduce yourselves. So where you are, what your institution is, whereabouts in your studies you are, and then we'll go into the questions. Let's start with Frankie, then go Heps, then go Isabel.
Hi, so I'm Frankie. I study at the University of Roehampton, which is a university in Southeast London. I am doing my master's in forensic psychology, full-time 1-year course. And I am about a week away from handing in my final dissertation, so I'll be done by January. So.
Heps.
Hi, I'm Heps. I'm a 3rd-year law student at St. Mary's University. I think that's it.
Thank you. And Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm currently on the Law and Humanities course in Kingston College, and I'm in my 2nd and final year.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Let's just start with why you chose the course that you're studying, and we'll use the same format. So we'll go Frankie, Heps, Isabel. What made you choose your course?
So I think a lot of us kind of start out with like the interest in like all the like criminal sort of like shows and books and things like that. So I think secondary school wise, that's kind of where I was at. And then I did psychology as an A level, and looking at the forensic psychology module in there, that was the part that I felt that I excelled at with a lot of ease. So that was one thing that I considered. And the reason it was so easy is because I really enjoyed it. So it was absolutely fine for me to kind of look at this sort of stuff in like my recreational time, which is a lot of people go, oh, okay, that's kind of boring. But then if you find it boring, it's probably not for you. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Yes, then I took up doing my undergrad in psychology and criminology, which is a combined honours course at Roehampton again. And that allowed me to kind of further specialise into the criminology side of psychology. Personally, I've never felt that I have like amazing people skills kind of built for counselling and stuff, but I've always very much had an interest in the way the mind works and how that kind of applies to like more the darker side of psychology, I guess. So anyone who's interested in psychology, they know that there's a million different approaches that you can do. Forensic psychology obviously looks at the law and criminology side of it all, and kind of looks at basically what makes someone commit a crime. And I think that's just always something that's just been enjoyable. Sometimes you don't necessarily need like an actual like objective reason why it interests you. It's just if your brain ticks when you're looking at stuff like that, then yeah, it might be an area that you want to do higher education in.
Absolutely. Thank you. Heps, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it started off when I was a bit younger, growing up in a low income background, especially my parents are immigrants who came to the UK. It's very much they have it in mind that you have to become a lawyer or a doctor to just sort of like that's what they sort of told me when I was growing up. And I remember watching a TV show when I was about 10 or 13, and it was sort of like a law TV show with like solicitors and stuff like that. And I was very interested in just like the fact that they were arguing. I am a very argumentative person. Somebody will say that I love to win arguments. I do. And that just sort of fascinated me. So went to A levels, I studied law in A level, and that was when sort of like the passion for law really grew, and actually just learning like the legal terms as well. And I feel like sometimes you think something is in the law, but it's really not. And I think that's so fascinating to me as well. And also, I'm really interested in like teaching as well, in terms of like the law as well, which I think is amazing. So that's really where I started, and that's where like my passion grew for law.
Amazing, thanks, Pep. Isabel, what about you? Because it's an interesting course you're studying.
Yeah. So basically, what motivated me to like study applied law was for the fact that I was told it would be a good fit for me because, like many young people, we're like unsure of what we want to go into. But on my time on the course, I became interested in how laws not only like protects people, but also shapes society. I also wanted to understand how the law responds to human behavior and different types of cognition because I also have a love for psychology. Um, Law also appealed to me because it challenged me to think outside of the box. And although my long-term goal is to become a mental health nurse, studying law has made me consider specializing in forensic mental health nursing. And forensic mental health nursing is like it deals with like the treatments and management of people with like mental health needs and who are involved in criminal behavior and those that equally pose a threat to others or themselves. So basically, it's like it sits at the intersection of psychiatry, law, and public protection.
So interesting, thank you. Guys, what have been your challenges so far on your journey? What do you think have been the biggest
Just a
challenges?
question.
I think my biggest challenge has been probably deciding on exactly a career choice. Because I think you kind of begin very like certain of what you want to do. And then as you go like begin to get more specified, somehow it actually broadens the amount of jobs that you can do. Um, there's so many different paths that people take. A lot of people in psychology tend to go for like marketing and things like that, which is quite interesting. Um, but yeah, especially just within a forensic setting and like a law and criminology setting, there are so many like jobs that you just don't know the titles of until you've spoken to someone about it, or you have talks like this where someone's introducing an idea to you. And more often you find things that are like, oh, maybe that will suit me, maybe this will suit me. So I think the hardest thing is kind of settling on what do you want to try first. Obviously, in your lifetime, you'll do many, many things, you'll change your mind about stuff. But I think being young, you're indecisive as it is, and then to have so many options kind of given to you, I think that's probably the toughest part. But it's just having the bravery to kind of accept that you're never going to feel ready to try something. You've just got to get out there, do it. If you like it, you can stick with it. And if you don't, you have time to drop it and change it however you want to kind of carry on with life.
So that's interesting. Have you changed your mind in what you're aiming for since you kind of first came into your studies?
Yeah, so with the transition between undergrad and going into my master's, I did consider doing like a law approach and kind of going down that route where I was more would I be like working perhaps with like victims a bit more than people who do the offending. And I think I was quite set on that for quite a long time and like kind of reflecting on like my motivations with working within criminology. It was very like victim based. And then as more and more kind of job roles working with offenders was introduced, I realized that I felt that that would be an environment that I would be a lot more comfortable in. And I think it would be a bit more impactful based on like my long-term goals of working within criminology. Um, yeah, so you just kind of like see the different services and the different charities and all those sort of things and like what they really do. And I think I kind of learned that there are a lot of like stereotypes against working with offenders that kind of blocked me from necessarily looking into it. And then by doing the forensic psychology course, it kind of took those stereotypes away. You kind of you see more of the humanity of it compared to people who perhaps have been interested in law or criminology at all. And I think that definitely helps to change your perspective because we all definitely have like unconscious biases. So I think it's very good to put yourself in situations where it's that can be like addressed and that can open all kinds of doors for you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Heps, what about you? And as well as your biggest challenges, have you also changed your mind since you came into your studies about the path that you're thinking of taking?
Yeah, so I think during first year, I definitely was like, okay, I'm gonna pursue a legal career, solicitor, apprenticeship, or like SQE, all of that. And I think leading up to it, I found out that the legal career is so oversaturated, and especially because they're constantly changing the rules to the game in terms of like they dropped their LPC and it's now only the SQE that you can do, and in terms of just like what these big firms want and what they desire of you, and even just sort of like an application could take you days to do it because you have to tailor it to that firm and you could do application and you can do a entry exam and then do two other interviews and then you could not make it. So I think that I was really like shocked at like how demanded it is just to even get it because after you finish your undergrad, you still have to study again for 3 more years. So for me, I'm sort of like opened up my mind to like new things. So when I came to St. Mary's, I wasn't thinking about teaching at all. And then through working with WP and other things, teaching has now become a possible career path for me. So I think I'm still in the crossroads. Like I still definitely have that passion for law. And I also have this newfound passion for teaching as well. But it's sort of like how do you balance that as a student? Because as well as studying, I have to find apprenticeships. I have to get experience because I found out that it's not enough to just have a law degree anymore. A lot of these firms, recurring question is like, what experience have you got in your 3 years of university? And it's like, law degree is so intense. There's so much reading, there's so much caseload. It's like, where do I find the time? So I think that's a constant battle as well.
So do you think that's been one of the biggest challenges, the fact that it has been kind of so intense and so labor intensive?
Yes, 100%, because it's like you're learning all these things in your law course, but then at the end of the day, you have to go out and you have to make sure that your commercial awareness is also there because the law is constantly changing. And for example, if you go to an interview, they could ask you about something, but it's like that's not what you're studying at the moment. You have to stay up to date with like just in case of like who the firm has as clients. You have to stay like up to date with what they're doing as a firm and like it's so much that you have to learn. So it is quite hard finding a balance as well. And I think definitely the fact that there are so many people studying law and there could be as simple as like one or two intakes for that year, depending on the firm. Some firms have more, but a lot of the higher firms would only have maybe like 20, and it's so saturated and there's so many rounds to go through. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that you have to be really, really set on that career to go for it. Absolutely. It's good advice. Isabel, what about you? What have been your biggest challenges so far? And have you changed your mind since you came into your studies about where you want to go with it?
Okay, so I've had three challenges so far. So coming from secondary school into college and doing applied law. So my first challenge was the application because in secondary school you can just like, study it, you can cram it, but like here you actually have to know how to apply it to like real life scenarios. And that was a challenge for me at first because it wasn't something I was used to. But like that the critical and analytical aspects of the law really helped me. So it helps me to improve like critical thinking skills and other skills. Another challenge was public speaking. So I've always been kind of a bit shy, and I found out that some of my classes requires me to like speak out about different topics. For example, we do like mock trials sometimes. So I had to learn how to build that confidence in myself and confidence like in my answers because obviously what I was saying was right. I just had to say in a way that others too be convinced that it's right. So I had to learn how to stop second guessing myself. Another challenge was managing workload because obviously it's not only law I'm doing, and law is like it's a demanding subject. So I had to learn how to organize myself, how to like use timetables properly and stick to the timetables. And so be doing this course has taught me like a lot of resilience, which is quite good. So, yeah, I did have some changes to the course because obviously I did law because people told me it was a good fit for me. But being on my course, law and humanities, with I also do psychology, I do sociology. So it just made me think, and I just ended up deciding on pursuing a degree in mental health nursing because I feel like that speaks to me the most out of all the other options I had previously. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, guys, what have been your highlights? What have been the best things in your journey so far?
I think highlights. Ooh, there's been quite a few. I think obviously like people that you meet, that's definitely like a big thing. Like when you're, no matter what approach you take, you're going to meet new people. And I think it's great to have people who have like a very similar passion around you as well. And then just kind of seeing like where they go with it, because no two people end up taking the same route in life. So that's always like quite enlightening and kind of great for building inspiration. Um, I do remember like specifically one thing that we did was like recreate the OJ Simpson case.
Mm.
We did because we on campus we have like mock courtrooms and everything, and we basically redid the like criminal trial for OJ Simpson. And I had never actually looked into any of the information, so I didn't really know what the outcome and everything was. So this was all like completely new to me. And basically our final conclusion as a class was very different to what the real life court ended up landing on. But it's just interesting seeing that, obviously, how everything changes over the years, how people with different opinions like affect it. Um, Even just like kind of like how the backgrounds kind of influence that, because we're like very female heavy class. And I think that kind of influenced our opinions and everything and our perspectives. So just loads of different little things, like new ways of thinking that you learn. Yeah, and the fun of doing like famous celebrity cases without the real life pressure, of course. But if you're looking to become a lawyer, that will probably soon be you.
Fantastic. Thank you. What about you, Het?
I think definitely for me, as Charlie mentioned before, our university has this program that they partnership with Support Through Court. So my first and second year, I was able to do a few weeks of placement, and essentially the program is people who are going through the court system alone. They have volunteers like myself who will come in and just give them advice. So it was a really good way for me to get experience with like talking to different people as well, but also like giving counsel as well. Because I think one thing about the law is that you can learn the legal jargon, or you could learn, like, for example, you could learn tort law, but it's like, how do you apply the law? And if someone comes to you with a question about the law, are you able to give them good advice, like correct and good advice? So it really helped me to just like actually speak to people, and just also like it put my skills to good use as well. And that's one thing I really loved as well. And I think throughout my university experience, during first year, we went to Isleworth Crown Court as a class, and that was like my first time in like a court setting. And it really just like sort of like I really loved being in the court setting as well. So I think that was a highlight for me. And even till now, I try to go back to just like watch because you can just go back to the court to watch things. I try to go back because I think it just reminds you of like why you're doing what you're doing. And I think it just like it's quite exhilarating to see people who are maybe in the position that you want to be in the future. And it gives me a sense of like, yeah, you can do it, keep going, just to watch and to see, and also just sort of to hear the way the law is, because I think like again, the law could be written one way, but then to see it in real life is completely different. And that's sort of like what I've really enjoyed throughout my experience.
Fantastic. You're absolutely right. It's very different when you see it in practice, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isabel, what about you? What have been your highlights?
Yeah, basically adding on to what like Hepsa said, basically just applying the law to like the mock trials, to case studies, even finding out like the origin of some laws, and then taking trips to the courts. Because I think this week, my class we went to the Kingston courts, and we just saw like different cases and how like the judges, the lawyers were doing their thing, and it was really nice to see. And it just makes you like appreciate like what you're doing more in class, because when you hear them saying some terms, you're like, oh wow, yeah, we learned this in class. So that was really fun. Another highlight was I enjoy seeing how the law links with psychology and sociology, because those are the other two subjects I'm doing. So, especially now that we're covering criminal law, I've seen how the law links to defenses, police powers, insanity, automatism. So it's just very nice to see, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, for all our students who are joining us and who will watch the video later, can you give us your tips for success? If you were a year 12 and what are your tips for success coming into this if you're studying law or criminology?
Ooh, I think first thing is to definitely just double check and look at the resources that kind of tell you how you get to your ultimate goal if you do know roughly what you want to do, because that could be the difference between you deciding whether you actually want to pursue it or not. A lot of people find that when they see how many steps there are to really getting to those final goals, that it does require some stamina quite a lot of time, especially if you're maybe only like 50% certain that you're strong academically. Sometimes seeing all those following steps that you have to follow academia wise, it might put it into perspective for you that perhaps maybe a degree isn't the process that you should go for, and maybe like an apprenticeship might be a better method. So for example, with my career, I wasn't aware when I first started my undergrad that I would require more than an undergrad to practice as any sort of real psychologist. You go on to do a master's, and then following that, 2 years of supervision under a job that is relevant, and a little bit more writing goes with that, alongside paying for BPS and HCPC memberships. At the age of 18, you're not going to really understand what that means, but it's good to get literate and understand what that is going to mean, just so that you don't feel blindsided by basically like when it comes around to, oh, I'm ready to start working. And they're like, oh, wait, you've actually got more steps to do. Kind of be aware of what that, it could be anywhere from a 3 year to 10 year plus plan. Be aware of what that looks like for you before you decide to sign up to things or invest money in getting like student debt and things like that. Be certain it is the route that you are willing to take, and be aware of how can I make a plan B or C out of this, because not everyone decides to stick with the plan after they've began it. But there are other ways to kind of still work with what you have done and kind of make a different route out of it. But yeah, just kind of be aware of what's going to be expected of you and then plan accordingly around that.
That's good advice. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hep, what about you?
Yeah, I would definitely say, just like picking back off from Frankie, that if you, for example, if you want to become a solicitor, you need to like have a plan. And I think from the first, like from year one, you have to have a plan, because there are some firms out there who actually tailor things for first years and tailor things for people in year 13s, insight days, internship days that you can come in. And I feel like because it's so oversaturated, when you start from year one and you have this experience in your bank and you have this all these experiences that you've done, you've gone out, you've networked, it makes it a lot easier. So when you get to year three and you're applying for these solicitor these training contracts and stuff like that, you don't feel like you have to play catch up because you've had that knowledge and you have the connections and stuff like that. And I would also say from an academic standpoint, it's just like there's always more to learn, but don't ever feel like you don't know where to go. I think with law, you can read something now and then like a few weeks later the law has changed. But I think if you just sort of plan your workload, that's one tip I would definitely say. Plan your workload, stay on top of your reading because there is a lot of reading. Stay on top of your reading and just know that like you have a plan, and just don't get too overwhelmed and just take it day by day because that's what you can really do.
Very good advice. Thank you. Isabel, what about you?
I think my answers are more on like the cliche side.
Go ahead.
So basically just staying organized. You have to have that timetable and you have to have the discipline to stick to it because the workload is going to be there. You have to put in the work. And then what also really helped me is like doing some practice papers. So I would always like do some past papers, which were really, really helpful. I also asked questions. Before I was shy about asking questions, but I realized like if you ask questions, the teachers that are always like willing to answer you, they're always willing to help. So if you ask questions, you gain more knowledge and you do better. And then I always try to study ahead because I realize that when I get to class, if I haven't studied ahead, I find it difficult to follow up on what the teacher says. So just studying ahead, even if I don't really grasp everything, at least if even if I have like a little knowledge, that would help. I also advise like getting educational like support or exam like access arrangements if you need some because that really helped me. At first, I didn't believe that I needed any, but after getting evaluated, I realized that I actually did need them and it's like really helped me.
Really good tips. Thank you so much. And do any of you have, so if you could go back and talk to your year 12 self, is there anything that you worried about then that you didn't need to worry about or that you should have worried about and you didn't know you should have worried about? What would you say to your year 12 self or to any year 12 who are joining us?
Yeah, I would say for me, this was we kind of more like catered to if you took like the university approach. Definitely look into the societies that are around you, not necessarily just like the fun ones, but there's also a lot of academic ones in most universities that you go to. And even getting involved in those are great opportunities for networking, finding fun volunteering opportunities because like Hep said, that is going to give you the advantage come later on because getting employed experience that you're getting paid for is very rare, especially if you're looking for enjoyable experience. Volunteering may seem like, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy to do something and not get paid for it, but it will save you so much stress in the long run when it comes to the job applications for the things that you really, really want. It just makes that a little bit easier for you because you've spent maybe 3 or 4 hours in a week doing a little bit of shadowing or something like that. And that can always be facilitated through a lot of like academic societies. So, for example, at Roehampton, we have a really well established law society. You can become a committee member for it, which is amazing to put on your CV because they are the people who kind of organize it all. But they've had a lot of things where they do like visits to different courts, meeting with different lawyers and things like that. They've had a lot of opportunities to kind of go and see things like the background of things. And a lot of them who are involved in that as well as doing a law course or related have found it a lot easier to get into all those internships and all of those different opportunities postgraduate. So yeah, even if you're kind of like, oh, what work experience can I get? It doesn't have to necessarily be a job that you can find on LinkedIn or something like that. It could just be sitting in one of your societies at your university. So yeah, definitely have a look into that.
Great tip there. Thank you. Heps, what would you say to your year 12 self?
I think for me, one of my struggles, like one of my fears was that what's that work-life balance? Because I've always been someone I've had a job. Um, I like to keep busy. I like to keep busy. I like to have clubs and stuff like that. And I think now being in university for 3 years, I think it's just definitely about planning ahead. And I am a sucker for a timetable. I love to plan ahead, plan my work days, plan my studying times. And I think once you have a secure timetable of like when you need to do stuff, it's so much easier and it takes the pressure off because I could lie and say there's not a lot to do, but there is a lot to do in university, and especially studying law, there's a lot to read, and there's a lot you have like 3 or 4 modules that you have to like continuously read different books from. So I think once you have that timetable in place and you keep up with the workload, I think you'll be okay. And also, I would say another thing that I sort of struggled for is maybe asking for help, because I think when you're coming from A level, you've been there for 2 years, you're quite secure with the people around you. Especially for me, I went to the same sixth form as I did for my GCSEs, so it was just sort of like continuously with the same people. I found it quite hard coming into first year, and like I didn't know who to ask for help or support, especially when I needed it. But in St. Mary's, we have an amazing wellbeing support team, we have an amazing careers team, and actually to find out there are actually systems in place that can actually help and support me throughout my 3 years, whether that's like academically or even financially, and just ways that you can get involved, and the university, and just reaching out for help. Even your lecturers, they're always willing to like give you some extra time, or just like come in for a one-to-one session where they can explain the question a bit more to you as well. So I think don't ever feel like you don't have anyone to ask for help. There's always someone you can support with as well and support you.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. And Isabel, what about you? What would you say to your year 12 self?
Um, just like I said previously about the educational support and access arrangements, I just feel like if I could speak to myself like from year 12, I tell myself not to think that I'm above that, because I eventually did get the access arrangements, but I got it a bit too late. So that made me have to like resit one of my exams because I didn't get the exam exact grade that I wanted. So I feel like maybe that's because I came from a country where like educational supports and like access arrangements are not really seen as a thing. So I felt I didn't need it. But like looking back at it now, just I could have just taken that leap of faith, earlier. Another thing would be I would have done my work experience earlier, like in my first year, instead of just like doing all like the studying, because I spent more time in my first year studying, and now I'm doing my work experience. But I realized that if I'd done that earlier, I would have had more time to study right now. So like trying to balance like those two, it's kind of a bit much. I also wish I had known that you don't need to like have your future planned out at 17. Like even now I'm still learning that because I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist, but I'm gradually letting go of the fact that like whatever you plan now may not be what will happen in the next 10 years. And like that is fine. Like that's okay. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
all.
great point. And I mean, all of you have changed your mind since you came in. Esther and I both changed career at some point in our lives. I also read law at university, and went into education. Do you know what I mean? So you're absolutely right. You don't have to have everything planned out. You're evolving all the time and learning. So that's a really great tip. And you made a great point about accessing support when you need it. There's no prizes for making things extra hard for yourself. Do you know what I mean? I would advise anyone just get every bit of extra help, whether that's, as Hep said, just asking for help when you need it with your lecturers, with support systems, or if you need, educational support to take your exams. And both Heps and Frankie made the point, ask questions, questions, questions. It's really important. We are going to bring back our academics now. Thank you so much, guys. That has been absolutely fascinating. I think the thing to say is, as well, all of you made the point. If you like an argument, and also I think if you have a sense of justice, it is such a great degree, like studying any kind of law or criminology. I loved it, but also employers know it's a good degree to have, like for anything. That's a good point to make. Let's start with, I'm still going to call you Dr. Charlie. I don't care if you're a stickler. What do you look for in an application? What do you think makes a good application?
I want to know, when I look at the applications for UCAS, that you want to be at the university doing the course. If you show me that you've made the effort to have a look, you know what it entails, and you really want to be there, it doesn't matter about anything else. I want you to want to come to university, to work really hard. And if you can get that across in the application, it's a massive tick in the box to me. Um, I read so many applications that come through for UCAS. I work on the clearing line as well. And if you find yourself in clearing and you speak to me then and you say, I really want to come here, I really, really want to study with you, it really goes a long way. And actually, people completely forget to include their drive to want to study, their drive to want to come to university. I've read lots of applications that said they watched Suits once and now want to be a lawyer, or human rights is a normal bit that people throw in. Very important, don't get me wrong, but passion, drive, and your real want to be at university really comes across on the page and makes me want to take a chance on you.
That's such a great tip. Thank you. And Dr. Kane, what about you? What do you like to see in an application?
I do second what Dr. Charlie said here. I think what I'm really looking for is for real motivation for studying law. It doesn't matter if you don't want if the rest of your career will not be in law. I think there was a question about journalism. It's absolutely fine. What I want to see that you have a genuine interest in the course, that you've actually taken the time to read the course description and what it entails, as a good indicator that you are motivated and that you're diligent. You apply yourself really to reach your goals. That you understand, even if very broadly, how the course will work and how you will transfer that to your desired career. Or obviously things will change and will evolve over time throughout the degree, but I want to see some flexibility, some self-reflection also on what the course will bring to you, but also what you think you will be able to bring to that course as well, and some good soft skills we sometimes are missing, but at least an appetite for working with other people. I mean, a law degree is very tough, is very difficult. There's always a danger of being solitary, but demonstrating that you're at least willing to engage with other, and that you are also organized and really ready to commit to what is a very, very, very tough degree, but also a very rewarding one once you complete it.
Fantastic. And are there any kind of common errors that both of you perhaps don't like to see?
Yeah, spelling the degree's name incorrectly is one that I see every year, and spelling things just wrong. Look, my spelling is atrocious. I famously spelt my own name wrong at my police swearing-in ceremony. So I'm the last one to comment. But if you know you can't spell very well, just please give it to someone to proofread. It doesn't have to be an academic. It doesn't have to be one of your teaching staff. Anyone who is really good at spelling, hunt them down and get them to look at it before you submit, because sadly it glares from the page when you're scanning.
Yeah, that's very good advice. That's something we try to reiterate with students. What about you, Dr. Kane? Anything you see over and over again that perhaps you don't want to see?
Yes, things like what I would call weak motivation. So, I like arguing, therefore I think a law degree would be good for me. I think you need to show more than that, to be perhaps a bit more specific and thoughtful about the reasons why you want to study law, and maybe choose an example and apply that to it. Structure is also sometimes a problem. So trying to organize things, I would say logically, as best you can. And when you give examples of extracurricular activities that you do, it is only helpful if you really show to me what you've learned from it. So that you play football, so you've learned to work collaboratively with other people on the pitch, and maybe strategize, for example. But be able to be concrete about the examples that you give, and avoid sort of cliche answers, really to support and demonstrate your motivation.
No,
Justine, if I may
absolutely.
just come back on that one as well. I think it's don't be afraid to show who you are as well. So if you're a student that really wants to come and do law but hasn't had the opportunity to do work experience, maybe because you're from a less privileged background, you're from a disadvantaged background, remember, you can always spin your own life. So if you're a child from care, you're a great communicator because you're having to adapt every day, new families, new situation. If you know you have gone through had an input from children's services, you can advocate for yourself, and you have done. If you are someone who is from a low income family, then you've helped access to additional funds, you've navigated the benefit system. So don't be afraid of being honest about who you are. I always stress that, and you know, that's a motivator just as much as maybe spending 3 weeks in a law firm over the summer. Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really great advice. Thank you. We haven't got much time left. Esther, do we have any questions?
Um, One of the questions, sorry, trying to put my camera on, was about journalism. I think some of us did see that one. So this student is interested in journalism, but considering like a law route, for example. So wondering how studying, which is quite an interesting question actually, how studying criminology/law has shaped any one of your perspectives on justice and society.
Oh, interesting. Has anyone got an
Um,
answer for that? In a way, it kind of
yeah.
feeds into the humanities and the psychology.
Mhm.
But go on, Frankie.
Yeah, I think like definitely coming from like a psychology perspective, I think it's very hard for you to then be able to like do the whole like blaming someone stuff. I think before you kind of learn the mechanisms behind like crime, even like the choices that like jurors make and things like that, it's very hard for you to kind of look at someone and be like, oh, that's the right or wrong thing to have done, because like there's just a reason for everything. And I think it's kind of bittersweet because you don't get to necessarily live like in blissful ignorance, like nobody's at fault but everybody's at fault type of thing. It's like knowing that there's so much that you can do to change things, to do like prevention sort of stuff. I think is very powerful to have that knowledge that you can anything can change anytime, and that you as an individual have the power to change things for other people, and like the chain effects that that can kind of have. um I think that's kind of something that you don't think about until you kind of get into the profession. Just how like one person does make a difference to so many people, and to how complete systems can change because of one person's passion and one person's impact based on their career and volunteering, charity work, anything. Yeah, just what began as like a little interest can change people's lives for good. So
Absolutely. And you made a really good point earlier because you're saying that you're now leaning more towards kind of working with perpetrators of crime. And I was
yeah,
thinking, wow, that's less sympathetic than working with victims. And yet we don't hold lawyers to that standard. Lawyers have to work with both sides.
yeah,
But I was thinking about it in the terms of journalism, and you made a point about we all have biases. If I see a sympathetic article about a perpetrator of a crime, it infuriates me. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
when someone's killed their wife and it's like, oh, he was really depressed. And I'm like, so?
yeah, yeah.
So,
I think like you're always initially gonna have like your kind of first surface level reaction. And then it's like, I think once you have kind of been educated about this sort of stuff, it gives you the chance to kind of educate other people and to kind of come to terms with things and accept things as they are. It doesn't necessarily make things right, of course, but kind of I think it reduces your anger at the world, and because there is a lot of injustice
yeah,
in the world at the moment, and a lot of awful things happen all the time. But I think when you can understand the mechanisms as to why, like I said, it does give you that power to accept things, to strive towards changing things. And that's why I think working within law and the world of criminology is just, it's so underrated. And I think more people should go for it. And like Heps was saying as well earlier, a lot of people may think I want to be a solicitor or a lawyer, but you can have just as much impact in those areas with loads of different little jobs that kind of sit on the outside of that circle that you may not have ever heard of yet. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's really good. All three of you kind of said that you like kind of the practical application. So I think two of you had been to the court. Can I ask the academics, do you like to see that in an application that someone's kind of made the effort to go to a court, or do you think that's something they'll do when they get to university?
On my part, I think that's a very good thing. I think to me, it demonstrates curiosity, which is also one of the skills I'm looking for in an application. That they're really making the effort to understand, the profession related to the degree that they want to study, and that also that they have reflected on it. I think what I particularly like to see is, I went to the magistrates court, for example. I wasn't happy with the way the magistrate were treating the witness, for example. I thought that was perhaps unfair, and that they develop that and perhaps advocate for what they think the law should be, or what a social position should be in any given situation. Yeah, I think that's a very good thing that we definitely encourage. You don't have to wait for your degree or for opportunities to be brought to you by the university, but you're showing that you're resourceful and that you're really committed and motivated to study law.
And remember, you can look at the Supreme Court judgments online, so cost shouldn't be a barrier for you to having that curiosity. And especially with a lot of the criminal court judgments being live streamed now, you can do that as well.
Yeah, that's such a good tip as well, because yeah, sometimes not everyone can travel to things. I think Esther has put just a very tiny little survey, a little quiz, just to say, did you find it helpful? Please fill it in, it helps us. Gosh, I just really want to thank this panel. You've been absolutely amazing, and I'm quite sad that we're actually out of time. Really fantastic, and I think it's going to be so valuable for everybody who sees this. And I guess people can still send in their questions afterwards. I know that usually when it gets played in a classroom at a school, the teachers normally have lots more questions. So I hope that you'll all be happy to answer them after the fact. Thank you so much. Anybody got any kind of closing thoughts?
I would just
Melina,
say that
go on.
sorry, I would definitely say that the world is your oyster. Like everyone has said here, like you could study law, but there's so much more to it than the law that you can do. And like even just through my 3 years of at university, like I want to do everything. So it's like you could say, oh my God, I really want to become a solicitor, but for whatever reason it doesn't work out. That is not the end of the world. There is so much you can do, and there's so many things that you can do through having a law degree as well. And just that if for whatever reason where you thought you were going to be doesn't happen, there's more doors that will open up and there's more avenues that you can do, and you're constantly evolving as a person. And even our world is constantly changing. So don't think that it's the end of the world, because it's just the start. So yeah.
Great point. Thank you. And Dr. Kane, did you have something else?
I have nothing to add after what Hepzibah said. Do believe in yourself, really, and most importantly, keep an open mind. Law offers you many different opportunities. If your plan A doesn't work, it doesn't really matter. Keep trying, keep going at it, and believe in your dreams and work for it.
Yeah.
And it seems
Excellent.
like laws everywhere, isn't it, as well? So there's people wanting to do psychology, criminal justice, all of these different things, sociology. So yeah, there's so many different options available. And also, I think community is also important. Like when you're look for different people that you can talk to and learn from. Like we have an organization we work with called Lawyers Who Care, that work with care experience students. So there's so many different communities that you can find, regardless of where you're from, to work and support you in your career. But thank you so much. Hopefully the poll has been filled in. It would just be handy to know how you found it, so we know how to improve in the future. Thank you so much to the panel for joining us today. So grateful for all your insights and all the information and perspective that you've given us. But thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.